Yeah, welcome to the Weege Show. Bit of an anniversary edition. I'm in New York City, Chinatown, eventually to the lower side of Manhattan. New York City is actually where this show was born in the form that you actually like to watch. I think it was 2017. I gotta check my math. It might have been 2018. It was right here in New York City. I've been doing the Weege Show, just doing boring race recaps, sitting at the table where they do the post-race press conferences at the races. Nothing special. I think 2017 edition of this race, the New York-New Jersey Supercross race, after the race, the TV crew, which I was not on at the time, I was just a Racer X guy, they were all staying at a swank hotel in Manhattan, and they invited me to come out and hang out with them. That was Ralph Shaheen, Jeff Emig, Ricky Carmichael, and NASCAR driver AJ Allmendinger, who was a guest in the booth for NBC that night, and he and I were actually the announcers for the American Flat Track Series on TV. So they're like, dude, you gotta come out with us, you gotta come out with us. So I'm a glutton for punishment, and I can never do things the easy way. I took a bus from the stadium into the city, then a subway to get to where they were, and then we hung out, and there was trash talked and stories told and adult beverages had all night. I really had a good time, and I was really fired up. That's kind of New York style, right? By 2 in the morning, you're more energized than you are at 2 in the afternoon. And I was also a little bit tipsy, and I had to make my way back to the subway and the bus and the stadium and my hotel back in New Jersey by the stadium. So I thought, you know what might be an adventure? Let's see if I can navigate this subway system at 2 in the morning and put it on camera. So I did a Weege Show. I scrapped the recap I did at the stadium, and I did a walk and talk. Now, it seemed epic at the time. I went back and looked at that. I'll try to grab a clip here. It actually looks terrible. I could have shot this video at MetLife Stadium, but we've done that all season long. Let's get used to the Big Apple and MetLife Stadium's Big Apple round of Monster Energy Supercross with the Cooper Webbingest of Cooper Webb races. If you want an event to symbolically sum up what Cooper Webb's championship run has looked like, it has looked like this. Chaos all around, but one man stoically standing in front of it all. It was the performance of Chase Sexton. I gotta buy my subway card here. Austin Forkner gave it the old college try. He had a torn ACL. He was in no condition. He jumped too far off a jump, and that hurt his knee. He couldn't take that kind of pain, and that's his pathway to the championship next weekend in Vegas. Good job by Sexton. Good job by Webb. They played it cool. I'm hopping on the train. See you in Vegas. We've gotten a lot better at everything we do over the course of like 8 years. But anyway, we're back. This show brought to you by Racetech for a special event in the city. I'll have a full press day show tomorrow, but let's talk about this. The Malcolm Stewart 27 movie premiere that is taking place right here in New York City. This is a special event. Yeah, see the graphics on the wall there? So this is a new documentary film that you can watch on ESPN Plus. That's the web streaming service on April 27th, yes, 27th, and I've been invited to the premiere here a few weeks early. This is a really cool thing. I've heard they've had this documentary of Malcolm going for 2 years or so behind the scenes. I haven't seen any clips from it. I don't know what it's all about. Besides, it's his career. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna watch, good times will be had, and we'll wrap this up from New York City and maybe again, walk and talk to the streets late at night after some adult beverages. Shout out to Racetech for backing our show. Racetech 1-0 with Malcolm Stewart. He once won the revamped, revitalized Montreal Supercross, went on a Moto Concept Honda, and he was running Racetech suspension that night. Gold valves. It worked for Malcolm, it worked for you. Fly on the wall. This is the Weege Show, yeah. It's the Weege Show.
Fly on the wall, that's a big fly.
It's dark out right now.
Yeah, a little bit. Let's go into the light.
Dude, you're thinking. All right, I had to drag him out. This is Weege Show right here. I found Malcolm Stewart, but it's now really, no.
Okay, here we are.
You're smart, you're smart.
There
you're
we
like,
go.
walk
We
under
got
this
the
light.
light.
We got the light. Dude, this has been going since the end of 2022? Beginning of 2023,
Yes.
this movie?
Yes. So, it's been a process.
It wasn't supposed to be this long?
I don't think so.
No, you don't.
I was supposed to get the win a while ago. You know?
You win Anaheim 1 2023, and the movie's over.
The movie's over, like that, like they wanted. You know, short
Yes.
film, saved a lot of money,
Okay.
everything's fine.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we had to go out there and blow our knee out.
Yep.
You know, so No, it was the film was awesome. I think it was more of an inspiring film. Something that I feel like people live through this daily life. Like obviously they're not blowing out knees and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I feel like it's just a roller coaster of the show, like how athletes and things that people can go through. So no matter what, I feel like that film it's something that you can take from and be like, wow, that was actually pretty cool. If you didn't know dirt bikes, now you do.
Well, that's the idea. It's not for hardcore fans. It's for new people to be like, I didn't even know about this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but even people that knew me, they were like, after the movie, they're like, I knew you, but like now, I feel like I've seen a different side of you.
I was gonna ask you about that. This was not the super happy-go-lucky Malcolm that we see every weekend. This was like serious Malcolm.
This was a serious.
It was, man.
This is not the guy that you always see on the race day Saturday smiling around. You're like, okay, wow, there's a backstory on this, but it's good. I mean, like I said, it was an awesome film.
Yes, so you're proud, and I gotta give you credit because this is a boost for the sport. You probably didn't have to do this. No. You were willing to give your time and be vulnerable.
Yeah. But like I said, I want something that's going to grow the sport for the better. Yeah. And I want more and more people that get more involved in the sport. And I feel like this film being on ESPN Plus is only going to draw more attention. So the better, I think we all win.
That's right. Good guy right there. All right.
Yes, sir.
April 27th. Thanks for having me out.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
That's good stuff. Get back inside. Awesome dude right there, that Malcolm Stewart. Now we're walking out of the light. So now I've watched the video, which again premieres April 27th, streaming on ESPN Plus. I learned a lot about how these processes work. And I'm gonna dovetail this into a larger conversation about specifically when the races come to this market, the New Jersey race, which is ostensibly run to get Supercross within the ranks of New York City. I am born and raised in New Jersey. I am not offended to say that the stadium being in New Jersey is only because of New York City. There are the New York NFL teams that play there. Giants fan personally myself. So yes, the stadium's in New Jersey, but those stadiums are there because of New York. And the race is in that stadium because of New York. I don't think it's the most profitable venue to hold a Supercross race in, but you got to play in the big markets if you want to grow the sport. And there's been a lot of pulling the rope in the same direction by different groups. You know, a week ago you had Hayden Deegan and Haley Deegan in New York City at the Empire State Building and on Fox and Friends in the morning, pushing to try to get these athletes as mainstream as possible. This was a production of Rockstar Energy. Feld obviously helped to provide footage and access to help make the movie possible, but the promotion for it and getting it on ESPN Plus, that was a Rockstar thing. Some folks might know that Rockstar was actually bought by Pepsi a couple of years ago. I talked to Jennifer from Rockstar, and she said, yeah, without Pepsi and that push and what they're able to do, this would have never been made, and then it wouldn't have been on ESPN Plus. And what's really cool is Pepsi has its own film arm, and they make a lot of productions like this, which are their subtle branding. So nothing in this movie throws Rockstar in your face, but if you're watching a 90-minute film with Malcolm Stewart, you're going to see Rockstar on the helmet and the jersey quite a bit. One of the other films that they did was behind the scenes of a Super Bowl halftime party. And if you pay close attention when you watch the Super Bowl, it's actually called the Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show. So when they have a behind the scenes doc of the Super Bowl halftime, you're getting subtle Pepsi advertisement without realizing it. But the beneficiary here is not just Rockstar. The beneficiary is Supercross, dirt bike racing, motocross, SMX, Malcolm Stewart, etc., etc. There's a lot of that going on. The Deegan stuff, this thing. Was it last year, I think, that Ken Roxon was on Fox and Friends and got on the ride? Oh, there actually, there's a pickup truck right there with the Malcolm display bike in the back. That actually came from a dealership in New Jersey. That's one of the genuine Rockstar Edition bikes you can buy. And shout out to Ocean Power Sports, a place that I used to go shopping in when I was a kid, for trucking a bike up here to the city. I said this is going to dovetail into a larger story. It's not just about Malcolm Stewart, but thank you for him for giving the time. Hopefully you watch the video and you like it, but it's a bigger thing than that. The struggle this sport has always had every fan that wants to complain about anything has the fallback of something mustn't be done right because it's the greatest sport ever and it should be bigger. It should be bigger. I hear it all the time. And the solutions that I hear people throw out there is like, they should do this or they should do that, or this is the reason it's not working. They're never the actual reasons why the sport isn't quote unquote mainstream. It's not because the riders need to be better with their podium interviews or more open to the media, or the racing needs to have 2 strokes or anything like that. The reason that this is always a niche sport is because most people have never done it. It's literally that simple. Most people have thrown a football around in the yard or played basketball, or in other countries, they've played soccer. You want to know the sport that has rocketed from nothing to something in the last 30 years? It's MMA. MMA as a professional sport didn't necessarily exist maybe 40 years ago, but it's fighting. There's no one on earth that doesn't understand what a fight is. And before that, the biggest sport was boxing, which is fighting. No one on earth doesn't know what fighting is. Even car racing, which is more popular than motorcycle racing in the United States, people drive cars. They somehow, in some way, feel like they can relate. Now, motorcycle racing has a series that is actually bigger than Supercross in Europe in MotoGP. But if you've ever gone to Europe, specifically the countries where MotoGP is biggest, which is Italy and Spain, that's where most of the riders come from, you go to those countries and people are riding scooters. This is our version here. People are riding scooters everywhere if you go to Italy. It's kind of like people just driving a pickup truck here and thinking they somewhat can relate to NASCAR racing. Well, people ride scooters in Italy and they think they can somewhat understand what Valentino Rossi was all about when he was hanging it out on the edge, winning MotoGP races. We don't have that with Supercross and Motocross here. You might think we do because we're all enthusiasts who have ridden. A lot of you watching this have probably watched, or sorry, have ridden and raced your whole life. Maybe your dad did, maybe your uncle did. If you raced your whole life, you probably have friends that also raced their whole life. You maybe have always had a motorcycle in your garage. You probably can't remember a time in your life where you weren't riding motorcycles. 98% of the people in America have probably never experienced that one time. So that's always the uphill climb here. It's not that the racing isn't compelling, or the athletes aren't great characters, or they're not willing to give their time and a promotion. And this has been going on forever, from Roger DeCoster giving ABC all the time he could give them for the wide world of sports, USGP shows in the 70s and 80s, to the 1980s, where, I mean, Rick Johnson was a consummate promoter, and so was Jeremy McGrath, and all the way through the Stu R.C. Reed days, which we've talked about a million times. Now we have energy drinks. You know, this whole thing was because of Rockstar and Pepsi. Everybody's trying to make something that is small, probably bigger than it actually should be, when you consider how few people have ever thrown their leg over a dirt bike and cleared a double jump. I think sometimes we complain and we get it flipped, and we think, why isn't the sport bigger? In some ways, you got to think it's pretty impressive that it's as big as it is, that there's going to be this many people in this building that know who Malcolm Stewart is actually shocking to a guy like me. Because like I said, I was born and raised in New Jersey. When I went to school, I always say this, not a single person I ever knew as a kid had ever heard of a single dirt bike racer, or even knew that dirt bike racing was a professional sport. I didn't have a conversation talking dirt bikes, like an out loud, hey, did you see the race last night conversation, until I was in my 20s. I would record the races on VHS, go to school the next day, and no one even knew that these races were on television, and no one even knew these races happened. That's the perspective I have. So it's a lot of people like myself trying hard to find as many people as we can to appreciate how cool this is. But we can never lose sight of the fact that everybody shot a basketball and thrown a football and kicked a soccer ball, or driven a car, or in Italy ridden a scooter. But without that genuine experience of, dude, I've done it, it's crazy. I can't believe that Malcolm Stewart or the rest of these guys can do what they do. Without that, it's always gonna be an uphill battle. But it's not from lack of trying, especially when you hold a race in New York City pretty much just for the promotional aspect. Because I can tell you the other thing, growing up in this area, everything's expensive here and everything's a huge pain. But it's worth it for the promotion. That's this edition of the Weege Show. We'll have another one coming tomorrow, the typical press day show. But happy anniversary to the Weege Show when we did the first ever walk and talk here in the Big Apple.